Uh, Calling this meeting to order, a special meeting of the Planning Commission of the Town of Clarkdale, Tuesday, November 4, 2025. May we have a roll call, please?
Chair Ido LeBlanc,
Here?
Vice Chair Joe Conk.
Here.
Commissioner Alan Spence,
Present.
Commissioner Amy Bayless,
Here.
Commissioner Marcia Fouts.
Here.
And advisory, Carol Johnson. No, I called him. Carol is on Zoom
Mute.
and she has said she's here.
Did you get her as here? Thank you. All right, public comment. The Planning Commission invites the public to provide comments at this time. Members of the Planning Commission may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431-01, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Persons interested in making comments on a specific agenda item are asked to complete a brief form and submit it to the clerk or liaison during the meeting. Each speaker is asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes unless a different amount of time is noted on the agenda or is determined by the presiding officer or by a majority vote of the council, commission, or committee. Do we have anyone present from the public? All right, we'll move on. Thank you. Closing public comment and approval of minutes. Are there any, this is discuss, consider, and act upon the draft minutes from the regular meeting held on August 19, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
No.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I propose that we accept them as presented.
Thank
The
you.
minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All right. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. It's unanimous. So new business. Public hearing. Ordinance number 445, amending chapters 11 through design review and site plan review, and 12 through subdivision regulations of the town zoning code to conform with House Bill 2447. This is a public hearing to take comments on ordinance number 445, amending chapters 11 design review and site plan review, and 12 subdivision regulations of the town zoning code to conform to House Bill 2447, which amends section 9-500.49 of the Arizona Revised Statutes relating to municipal administrative reviews. This public hearing is now open. Staff will present. Great. Take it away.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you, you have the proposed text amendments for chapters 11 and 12. These numerous amendments are being presented to you this evening in response to a House bill that was passed, House Bill 2447, in the legislature earlier this year. This bill did two things. It reassigned the approval of land division to administrative staff rather than going through a public hearing and town council process. And it also assigned administrative approval of design review to staff rather than going through any sort of public hearing as well. So Gus, can you go to the next slide or do I have a clicker? So what we're talking about changing under this statute is, will be site plans, development plans, again, land divisions, lot line adjustment, lot ties, and preliminary and final plats, plat amendments, plat abandonments. All of these things are things that we do from time to time. The lot line adjustments and lot ties, some of these we do already administratively, but now the state has mandated that all of these must be done by staff without a public hearing. All right, next slide, please. So it also directs administrative approval of the design review, which is part of Chapter 11. So that is something that the town has implemented and takes very seriously. So what they've said basically is they have to, we can continue with design review as long as they are objective standards. So what we'll be looking for in these standards when we come back in the future and rewrite them as part of the zoning code update is to make sure that they address the bulk of built structures, the massing of structures on a site. They need to be measurable or definable. We just can't say looks like or should look like. Siting of structures on the lot, parking, so forth. Articulation of buildings, that they're not just one flat surface, that there's some visual interest to the facade of the building. And then variance and roof line. So again, you don't have just one straight plane for a roof, that there is some changes in that roof line to add a little bit of art, visual interest. All right, next. So here are all the things we can't say anymore. We can't say compatible, which is in just about every one of our design review standards. Appropriate, harmonious, congruent, consistent, complement. We can't use those terms anymore because they're all subjective. What I think is complementary, somebody else might think is hideous. So there's far too much subjectivity in interpreting these codes. So the legislature has directed that we now make them objective so that they are easily understood and easily applied. Next. So like I said, most of what we have talks about being visually compatible with. And so if we're trying to talk about regulating infill development in the historic downtown, we would talk about things like including architecture, arch details, because most of the buildings in downtown either have brick arches like this, arched windows. There you see arches quite frequently. Same thing with the inlaid brick detail. Most of the buildings have some sort of column that protrudes from the facade. Clerestory windows are very, very common. Large display windows are all common. So those are the kinds of design standards that we can use because they're measurable and it's a binary answer. Yes, they have it. No, they don't. It's not open to interpretation. Either the windows are large or they're not. All right, and next. So for new construction, you can use about the same requirements or details or standards. So here in a more contemporary building, you would have those arch details, some inlaid, this doesn't really have inlaid brick, but those kinds of things, the articulated columns, so that you do carry over some of those design features from downtown out to 89A, if that's what, if the Planning Commission and staff decide to do. But these are the kinds of details that you would see in those design guidelines rather than complements the existing built environment. Looks like the surrounding built environment, looks like what's in downtown. So we have to get away from those subjective terms and really drill down to what it is that is easily definable and discernible. So there's no question about what it is that we're looking for when we talk about new development. All right. The other thing that is in Chapter 11 that is affected by this minimally, because we've already made substantial changes to site plan review, is the site plan review process. So this is just a generic site plan. It shows the location of the buildings, the parking, the access and egress. setbacks, all of those kinds of things. Site plan review really is a technical review of zoning codes, building codes, engineering standards, those sorts of things. And it's not typically something that the public may have questions about or have input about, but those technical decisions override the public opinion when it comes to a site plan. So that we have a few little changes to site plan review, but really nothing substantial to that section. The most significant changes will come in where we start talking about land divisions. So we talk about subdivisions, and this is a plat for Radley. Some of you have been here long enough to remember when we unwound that plat. That took quite a bit of time and effort. This one was platted in 1917. But you can see that a plat is just a fancy word for a map that fixes the locations and dimensions of lots, and it fixes public right-of-ways or streets, those kinds of things on a map. So again, so it's measurable and definable. You know that each lot is 135 feet wide or 50 feet wide and 135 feet deep. It's shown here, and that's exactly what gets built. So again, these are administrative decisions. They're either a yes or a no. They either, yes, it meets the minimum lot size, no, it doesn't. So it would apply to subdivisions, minor subdivisions, which are subdivisions of lots that have between 4 and 10 lots, preliminary plats, which is when we get that conceptual map in to kind of frame out what it is that a developer is talking about doing. So we have a pretty good concept of what they're proposing. Final plats, this is a final plat that you would see. Any changes to the plat, combining lots, making some lots bigger, that would be a plat amendment, and then making the whole thing go away would be a plat abandonment. So all of those things typically go through a public hearing process. There's typically a neighborhood meeting. There's a public hearing at Planning Commission, and then there's a final decision by town council. These things will all now be done at staff level. Again, we're talking about conformance with adopted standards. So either these lots meet the lot dimensions that are required in the zoning code, or they don't. And if they do, we have to approve it. The streets are either meet the engineering standards for streets that are dictated by the traffic impact analysis, or they don't. So right now, we take these to town council for final approval. Here, we don't have many issues, but in other communities, they have a lot of plats that meet all conditions and legally should be approved that don't get approved because of public outcry. And it just ends up in a big legal mess for the municipality and the developer. Next, Gus. So that's really just kind of an overview. We have I know this looks like a lot, but what we have really is the red line version and a clean version so that you can see what the final edits will look like when they're in the document. So if you'd like, we can start just walking through sections. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Are we going to use the clean version or the other version? That's why
I can track both. It's up to you. If you have questions on the clean version, we can sort it out.
Well, I made my notes on the marked up one.
Okay.
And then I realized the second half was a repeat. So it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. It's easier for staff because we can tell what we've changed and what we haven't changed. Yes, ma'am.
So none of this applies to historic. What's the difference between historic and?
Thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to mention that. So we not too long ago approved the historic preservation ordinance for downtown. So we made it an opt-in, opt-out ordinance. So if you opt into it, your review for design review would go to the Historic Preservation Commission. If you don't opt into it, then the design review for right now would come to Planning Commission, but after December 12th, it will come to staff for review. Anything else? Anybody else got questions? All right, so we did go through most of this at the work session last week. So hopefully we don't have too many detailed questions. Again, we made changes to the purpose and applicability to take out some language that was kind of, as I call it, squishy. It's not really definitive. It's talks about the surrounding built environment, which is on our list of things we can't say anymore. We did include, you can see the inclusion of the historic district items. The next section, we did take some language out about including a site plan for design review, because we really can't consider, we don't have any regulations for color or things like that, materials. So unless we have some regulation for that, it's not really something that we can consider. We have had some conversations with other communities that use what's called light reflective value. Or is it reflective or reflectivity? And it's the amount of light that gets reflected from certain colors. And there are many HOAs, for instance, use that frequently to narrow down a band of acceptable colors. We don't have a color palette. We don't have LRVs right now. So that's something that will be discussed when we come around to the amendments with the Citizens Advisory Committee. Again, we go on with reassignment of anything in here that comes to the Planning Commission goes to the Community Development Director or designee. So you'll see that change made frequently. On page, let's see, 5 of 50, so we are still in section 11-120. We talk about administrative completeness, and making sure that the applicant is notified when the application is complete, when they've submitted all of the forms and the parts that we need, and then we can go into substantive review. So if we go, you skip to the next section, 11-040, review. So page 15 of 228 is where you should be. At the bottom is,
Right.
there you go. And the top is the book. So the bottom is the packet. We'll use the packet numbers.
Question on this page.
Yeah, no, but I think that.
And you, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
I have a question on page, what I believe is page 6, if you're using the small number.
Small numbers? Okay.
Okay, at the bottom, item 4,
Mhm.
so the main entrance, et cetera, when it reads, based on size, shape, topography of the lot requires orientation to the side, we're talking for the entry of the building.
Mhm.
I would really prefer if the orientation would say orientation to be elsewhere.
I'm sorry, orientation to the what?
For the front door would be elsewhere
Oh,
rather than tying it into the side of the
gotcha,
building.
gotcha. Okay, got it.
Okay,
And I have a question on that page.
Let's go back. I don't want to get too far ahead here because I want to say a couple of things about review criteria. So these are the original criteria that are struck through here. And if you read them, you see the relationship of the width of the building or structure to its height shall be visually compatible with the building's structures and places to which it is related, or shall be maintained as original whenever feasible. So that's when we talk about non-specific, subjective language, this is what we're talking about. So you can see that we've struck all of this out and we're coming back with a little bit different language. But like I said, this will undergo quite a bit of attention when we do the zoning code update. So was there anything, I'm sorry, anything else on page 6?
So does anyone want to be recognized to speak?
Yes. Under item 3 on that page,
Uh-huh,
starting at filling, excavation, and earth moving, blah, blah, blah.
uh-huh.
That sentence doesn't make sense to me.
Must be kept to a, must, it should be kept to a must, should be, it should, everything should be struck out, but so be kept to a must out. It should, so it should read, earth moving activity must meet all grading requirements and engineering standards.
Does anyone else have a question or comment? No?
No.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, so again, we go through this whole section of the standards. We put in references to specific parts of the zoning code for outdoor lighting, landscaping, and so forth. Section 11050, exploration of design review approval. We made that maybe grant, if we made some edits to the language. Violations and enforcement, the same thing. We have changes to who's responsible for that. It's now the Community Development Director designee. Appeals for design review will go to the Board of Adjustment. And then we move on to purpose and applicability for site plan review. And as I said earlier, we didn't make a ton of changes to this, just because we've already gone through it and made quite a bit of change to when we shifted this from the, to solely, staff review. So if we go to section 11-100,
Are you taking questions now?
sure.
Taking questions? now?
Under number 4, site plan review requirement shall be waived for wireless communication facilities. Why is there?
I'm sorry, where is it?
Page 20,
It's 20.
or small page 10.
Oh, gotcha. So,
Why do we treat wireless communication facilities different?
because they're federally regulated.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Would you like to continue?
Okay. Then we go on to review and approval authority. Here we've changed the title from Development Services Director to Community Development, added a few other words. Again, just making some changes to punctuation and grammar. Same with site plan application submission and review procedures. We didn't make many changes to that. We did strike some language that talks about a neighborhood meeting for site plan review. So that section is gone. So that's on page 14 of 50 or 24 of 228. The table has remained essentially the same other than changing development was misspelled in one spot, I believe. So then we're on page 26 now, 26 of 220 of 228 or 16 of 50, section 11-130, approval standards and criteria for site plan review. This is where we did get into some, this is about the only place we made substantial changes. And so this is where we took out again some of the subjective language, excuse me, and put in some more objective standards, and changed again any references to planning commission, to community development director. So those are the changes that you see on page, let's see, 27 or 17 through 34. So these again really talk about engineering standards, drainage, grading, all of those sorts of things.
I have a question.
Do you,
Yeah, I'm good with what you just described there. Back on page 25 of 228.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is just tedious, but when I look at number 9 and at the end of it, it says, provide copies of all drawings submitted at 11 by 17 sheets.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be extremely reduced. Am I understanding that correct? Might be hard to read.
Yes, we do it just so that we can replicate them on 11 by 17 if we need to. But really what we require now is electronic submittals and 2 hard copies of 24 by 36.
Right, that was my next question was, so for the digital copy,
Yep,
are we talking PDFs or?
yes.
Okay.
Typically we get PDFs. We don't usually get any of the CAD drawings or anything like that.
Right. I was just in other words, if I was sitting there applying for a project here, these would be questions I'd have.
Okay, so we can strike this part, 11 by 17. And I'm sorry, what was the next one?
It was, where'd it go? Yeah, the next one down, digital copy, number
Oh.
10.
PDF. Perfect.
that it?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ruth.
So now we can go skip to section 11-140 post-approval activities. Page 35 of 228 or 25 of 50 if you're using the smaller numbers. So we talk about, so some of the things that we've changed. So once everything's approved, typically we get what's called a guarantee. So we get a financial guarantee or a financial assurance to make sure that everything is built and it's built correctly so that if the developer goes bankrupt halfway through, we have the funds to fix what's there and make sure that it's not a hazard. We don't have open trenches or things like that. So we talk about that in this section. And then again, the rest of it is a lot of just grammatical punctuation changes. We get to page 37 to section 11-150 appeals. And again, we talk about appeal, who can appeal, and that they appeal to Board of Adjustment rather than staff. And then on the following page, section 11-170 talks about interpretation of the code, and that if somebody doesn't agree with the community development director's interpretation, they go to the Board of Adjustment for interpretation and clarification. So that's chapter 11. So that's design review and site plan review. Do we have any other questions about any of that?
Well,
Do we have any questions online? Okay. So now we can go to chapter 12, and that should start on page 62 of 228. And I see it says.
could you give us that page number again, please?
I'm sorry?
You said a page where you're going to begin. Could you say
Right,
that
page
again?
62, 228.
Thank you.
Yep. So again, this is a section, because this governs land division, this section, we made numerous substantial changes to the text here. Let's go to page 65. Before that's mostly table of contents, and not a ton of that changed. So the first thing we did was update the authority, applicability, and jurisdiction. We took out the town development policy and goal because policy really does not belong in a technical document like the zoning code. Again, we went to section 12-1-030. We had language in there about what the intent of a common ground of understanding. Again, squishy language that really doesn't serve to clarify or define what the town is looking for with respect to zoning and land use. So that was stricken. If you go to the next page, section 12-1-060 repealer. So this was language that's just plain unnecessary. Once you amend a zoning code, it's understood that everything that came before it is does not have effect. And that's essentially what this section says. So we start the changes here with section 12-1-080, talking about subdivision amendments. It used to be that those could only be made by town council. Those will now be made by staff. The same with re-subdivision of land. The next page is section 12-1-100, abandonment or reversion to acreage. Again, that would go to the community development director rather than through a public hearing in town council action.
Yes, remember, E1, the acreage shall be conformance with the.
In conformance.
In. We need to add.
Yep, I have that. I made that note. So that's the most substantial change to that section. And again, these are the nature of the changes that you're going to see is the shifting of approval to staff from town council. So if we go on to the next page, page 70, again, just striking the prior code notes and just things like that. Section 12-1-160, we formerly had a planning commissioner, or chair or designee on a subdivision committee. We can't do that any longer. The next page, we talk about the processing fee schedule and how that updating that and who gets assessed fees and when. The following page is a hardship clause, 12-191-190. And that talks about where there's an extraordinary situation. And again, this would go to Board of Adjustment, but it has to be something inherent with the land. Because I want it over here is not basis for a variance. There has to be something inherent with the land that prevents that landowner from using their property just like everybody else in that zoning district. We added for public purpose to the waiver section. We again made several changes to community development director for water adequacy. And this section essentially talks about when you plat a subdivision, the subdivider or the applicant is responsible for providing a 100-year assured water supply. So either they have to bring water with them, they have to own water somewhere here. It has to be physically available and it has to be available on paper, or they get a water supply from the town. And so this water adequacy just talks about how that gets sorted out and how it's noted on the plat. So are we all good here?
Well, point of order, just,
Mhm.
are you going to complete your whole presentation and then take questions because you're
I can
taking
take-
them as we go?
I can take questions from the commission as we go. The public will take questions when we're done.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
Hardship. Doesn't say anything about the Board of Adjustment.
So they include this in this language. So as part of the platting process, if there's a hardship for the entire subdivision versus one lot, that adjustment can be made as part of the final plat approval rather than going lot by lot by lot to the Board of Adjustment. So if we go to Section 12-3 subdivision design principles and standards, and page 75 of 228. Again, we have just some language cleanup where we talk about promoting and the opportunities for multimodal transportation. We have to be more definitive than just say, well, we want to promote this. So we have some of that language that we have taken out and just cleaned it up to make it a little bit more precise. If we go on to landscape requirements, this is kind of redundant to repeat the landscape requirements here when we have entire chapter 9 that is devoted to landscape requirements. So we just changed that reference to chapter 9. Go to chapter 9 and read those. Street location and arrangement, again, changing the reference to the community development director and the subdivision committee. So we do have a group that does, the subdivision committee does actually meet. We talk about projects. So it's not that we don't meet. We do sit down with Public Works and talk about streets and do these work, and the same with the drainage and those sorts of things. So the subdivision committee actually does get together and work. So that's why we do have some of this called out in here. Again, dedicated access. So we talk about making sure that whatever whatever subdivision you're making, we make sure that there's a dedicated access so people can actually get in and out. That roads, if the developer and the town agree, are either privately maintained or dedicated to the town. That the dimensions of the roads, the angle of the rise, all of that information is what's in this section. The same with street classification. We also talk about, again, shifting from the planning commission to the community development director, who ultimately approves all of this. And again, subdivisions are required to have traffic impact analyses, and those define what the requirements are for street widths, parking, and access to the greater circulation network. Again, block design, we cleaned up the language. Lot planning is a lot planning is a lot of the same changes, just cleaning up language and cleaning up grammar and punctuation. This street naming, we talk about you can't use the same name twice in town. You probably shouldn't use ones that are well-known in adjacent communities. Condominium development, air rates planning. So that one, we made a few language changes just to clarify what it is that's involved in the condominium planning process. We went through this next section, so we should be on page 84 of 228. Page 85 has a table of what's required for different types of land division, subdivisions, minor subdivisions, and minor land divisions. So this just goes through and talks about what steps are required. So you can see that for a subdivision of 10 lots or more, we no longer have a public hearing by the planning commission. That no longer goes to town council. It goes to community development director or designee. And again, you'll see that language changed throughout. The next section is the 12-4-020, the pre-application conference. This is where staff and the developer sit down, and we just go through the generalities. They come in and they have a basic plan. We make basic comments about what it is that's required. And it just helps so that when they do apply, that they understand what it is that we're looking for. This next set of regulations for preliminary plat talks about all of the technical things that we will be looking at for preliminary plat submittal, what's required, strikes out public hearings, strikes out the neighborhood meetings. So we now have also the submittal confirmation so that we do a completeness review to make sure that all the pieces are there, all of the pages, And then we move to substantive review, which is the actual technical review. And so we can skip the next couple of pages up to page 93 of 228. This is the section again where it talks about things going to planning commission and town council. So all of that language has been changed. The next page is page 94. Again, we're back to appeals. So this outlines the appeals. If the staff declines or denies approval of a preliminary plat, it would go to the Board of Adjustment. And we strike here some, again, squishy language that does not meet what the new laws require. On the following page, page 98, was formerly responsibilities of the council. So that is now all the responsibility of the community development director. Like I said last week, Scott's going to be a busy guy. And again, we just strike commission recommendations, town council approvals, those sorts of things. The next page, page 96 is subdivision technical review. And again, this is where we send it out to the town engineer, the fire department, all of these places for their review of the technical submittals, the improvement plans for the streets and the sewer and the water and sidewalks and all of those sorts of things. Then we move to the filing of the final plat. So once it has been approved by the subdivision committee, then it goes to the community development director, and typically the public works director will sign off on the plat, and it gets recorded. This has technical requirements for that document, signature blocks, what has to be in the declarations, all of that information. And we can skip quite a few pages because, again, most of that's just technical information. Page 104 is where we get back to final plat approval, recording, and post-approval. So again, it no longer goes to town council. It's approved once we get all the comments in, everything's approved by all of the agencies having jurisdiction, like the fire department, APS, Unisource, all of those. Once they have approved everything that's proposed, staff has approved it, community or public works has approved it, it meets the zoning code, then we can approve the final plat. It gets recorded because it is a legal document. And then post-approval is just, we keep track of how it's being built. Do they have the streets in? We inspect the streets. Are they built correctly? Those sorts of things. Again, it talks a little bit about the financial assurances that we hold so that, like I said, if they go bankrupt halfway through the project, we have money to finish it out, or at least get the infrastructure and the utilities completed so that they don't present a hazard to the rest of the community. And that should be about it for subdivisions. So minor subdivisions are an abbreviated process of a typical subdivision. These are from, like I said, 4 to 10 lots. This goes to town council for final approval. They're small, they're fairly routine. And so again, we just made changes to language for the community development director to be ultimately responsible for this, that it does not go for a public hearing. Once everything is correct, then the community development director can approve it. Again, appeals go to the Board of Adjustment. And then we talk about minor land divisions and lot line adjustments. So those are for if you have a lot or a parcel and you wanted to divide it into 2 or 3 lots, that is a minor land division. And a lot line adjustment is if you have your neighbor really likes you an awful lot and wants to give you half of their parcel or their lot, moving that lot line over is a lot line adjustment rather than resurveying and replatting or reapproving a different lot. And these are things that we already do right now at staff level. So there wasn't a ton of cleanup on that language either. That should take us to page 119 is purpose of lot line adjustment, like I just explained. Roadway standards for minor subdivisions. So this is where we talk about, based on the number of homes that you're going to have in that subdivision, what the road standard is. The next section is 12-7 public improvement standards. We have some of this that is in here now, but a lot of this will be shifted to engineering standards because they really are engineering in nature rather than planning and zoning and land use. So we left them here now because we wanted to get just the quick and dirty changes that we needed to get so that we're in conformance. And then we'll come back again with this chapter and do some serious work on it during the Citizens Advisory Committee meetings. So that pretty much covers everything. If you turn to page 129, you'll see road cross sections. That's what we call that drawing. It's like if you slice the road, you can see the lane width, the shoulders, the curb, gutter, sidewalk, ditches, all of that. So those will all eventually be out of here because it's all engineering standard. But for the purposes of tonight, they will all stay here. And that is everything for subdivision regulations.
Is your presentation now complete?
I am done. I am complete.
All right, so commissioners, does anyone have additional questions or comments? Go ahead, please.
What's Mylars?
So Mylar is kind of a see-through, kind of plasticky material that they use. So they used to print blueprints on paper. Now they print them on this Mylar that you can actually see through. So instead of being like blueprints, they're black and clear prints. You've got black lines on clear. Opaque really, but clearish.
All right, anything else for any question or comment from any commissioner? Ah.
This gentleman that's.
Oh, that's Stephen Polk. That's the town attorney. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hello, folks. This is Stephen Polk. I'm the town attorney. I've worked closely with Ruth on this. She's done a real nice job updating the town code. As discussed, these are changes that are required by state law. If you flip all the way to the very back of the packet, you'll see that the actual state law, it's ARS 9-500.09, and it's what mandates these specific things, which might be helpful just for me to show you real quick, so you can understand the kind of the context of why we're doing these. Let me see if share screen's allowed for me right now.
Oh, it just went off, it just went blank. What'd you do?
Nothing, it's them, okay? It's not you, it's them.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you can see this, it's 9-500.49, and what it says is that the legislative body of the city or town shall by ordinance do the following things. And one is authorize administrative personnel to review and approve site plans, development plans, land divisions, lot line adjustments, lot ties, preliminary plats, final plats, and plat amendments without a public hearing. So we had to go through the whole code and switch it over from having you as the Planning and Zoning Commission hold these public hearings on all these items to now it just goes straight to the Community Development Director for review. And if it meets the objective criteria, then to approve it. And then same with number 2, authorize administrative personnel to review and approve design review plans, So also design review has been removed from your purview as the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. And design review has to be based on objective standards now, and also without a public hearing. And then number 3 is allow at-risk submittals for certain on-site preliminary grading and drainage work or infrastructure. So that would be, what that one means is someone who wants to build something on their property, a subdivision or something, they could submit just for a grading permit and do the dirt work before they actually have an approval on the structure they're building. And then number 4 is allow applicants with a history of compliance with building codes to be eligible for expedited permit review. And so Ruth's done a real nice job going through our code and updating it to make it compliant with the law. And with that, I know Ruth and I are available for any questions on this, but what we'd ask is that you as a commission take a vote to recommend approval of the amendments. Recommend approval to the town council to adopt these amendments to our code. Thank you.
Thank you. And Carol?
Okay, my comment was when we were at the study session was how would the public ever know, even though I know they're out of the picture, but I think Susan was talking about maybe doing a report or something like that so that the public would have some concept of what's going on.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Johnson. Yes, so what we have discussed and what most communities are doing is to ensure that these are posted on their town website. We have a projects page that we post things like this so the public can see what has been submitted, what's being proposed. Similarly, we have a Facebook page. We put notices out there that this is available. Here's a link. You can click on it and go directly to where these are posted on the website. We put information in the weekly reports about these. As you can see, the newspaper was here earlier. They frequently cover these sorts of things. So there's a number of outreach things we can do. We will be including updates and reports on this sort of thing at planning commission meetings. So when we do get an application in, we can say we received an application for this project. It's this many units on this many acres. The plans are posted on the town website so that people can see them. And then updating town council as well on projects. Again, this is a storage facility that's being proposed. It has X number of units. It's on so many acres. It's, zoned for this use. The design is being considered. So far they meet all of the requirements. Those are the kinds of things that we can report back to the public so that they are aware of what's going on.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there anyone, you have a question or?
Yeah, so on these projects where, they don't have to go through public hearings and all of that. So these projects would be ones that meet all existing requirements for that lot.
Correct. They have to comply with zoning standards. If they need rezoning or if they want to do a planned area development, then those are zoning changes and those have to go back through that statutory process where there is a public hearing.
Okay. Yeah.
So that has not changed.
Anything else from any member of the commission? Marshall,
Go ahead,
first. Go ahead.
I had one, I was gonna ask you about back on page 75. About 228.
Okay.
Under D, renewable. That we can insist on renewable energy sources being part of the plan.
Well, these are the things that we can ask them to do. We can't insist on, so we can't, that's called an exaction, and we can't make exactions unless they're rezoning property. We can ask them, these are the things that we look for, and that's really what this language is for, is that, take into consideration some renewable energy things. It's, when this was written originally, I'm sure that renewable energy was new. They're pretty much standard now. Everybody's got some sort of solar panels or some other, you know, recirculating water devices or some other renewable energy asset in their home.
All right, Marcia?
So you talked about, what the public can do, but what's the public recourse? What can they do when they do have
Good question.
questions and arguments?
So they can contact town staff and talk to them about what's being proposed. You know, why are they building this here? Why are they using this color? I don't like these materials. And the intent here is kind of shift things away from I don't like to this is what's required. Because there's a lot of ambiguity in zoning codes, not just here, but all over Arizona. And we have this push-pull between private property rights of the developer and what the public wants. And there has to be a balance of those things because ultimately the developer, if the developer owns the land and is building something, they have rights that are set forth, not just in code, but in state law and in the Constitution. We can't deny them a use of their property without either just compensation or a really, really good reason, without running afoul of the Constitution. So we have to be very careful because things that you ordinarily wouldn't consider to be a taking can be considered a taking. For instance, we have a 50-foot height limit in the State Route 89A corridor. We can't tell somebody you can only build 3 high because we don't want it any higher. They have that legal right to that 50 feet. And we can't say, no, you're only getting 3, you're only getting 2. We can incentivize them to do it, but we can't say that they can't. So the public can come to us and we can talk to them about those things and explain just like that. Constitution says they have a right to private property. We can only do so many things, but we can't tell them that you can't build, if it's zoned for a commercial use, we can't say, we already have 1 gas station in town, we don't need any more. That's not how that works. We can't say, we don't like blue buildings, you have to paint them a different color. We have to have adopted standards that people can read and understand so that when they come in forth with the project, they're not wasting a ton of time going back and forth between staff and the public and the developer trying to figure out what they can and can't build.
But there's many instances that the public has been, of great value in, and so now
Correct.
that is completely, that's saying that our opinion is.
No. I mean, you can still come in. So my favorite example of this, Commissioner Fouts, is when we did Plateau. And you said what I really liked was the clubhouse plan for Mountain Gate, because the developer wasn't understanding what we were talking about with respect to the design for that project. We pulled it out. I emailed it to him and said, this is what they're talking about. And lo and behold, that's what we got back. We can still have those conversations. We can still say to a developer, here's the plan that they're talking about. When Marcia talks about the clubhouse at Mountain Gate that was originally proposed with the Spanish Revival architect, this is what she's talking about.
You're no longer going to be talking to me.
You can call us anytime you want and talk to us.
Okay, so like in Mountain Gate, I did screaming earlier, really, about sidewalks, because they weren't going to put any sidewalks in anywhere. And so how does the public know to scream about sidewalks? Because there's no plan, there's no public hearings. So how do they know to scream about sidewalks?
So again, the plans are all posted on the internet, right? They're all posted on the town's website, so anybody can look them up and see them. We talk about them in the weekly report. We talk about them on the Facebook page, talk about them in the newspaper, talk about them at town council, talk about them at planning commission meetings. So people we do push out information about this. And they can go look at them, and I frequently get calls about things we have posted on their plans that people have questions about. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Why don't you put this here? Why don't you put that there? So that opportunity is available. And like I said, we still meet with people on things like U-Haul. We have ongoing conversations with people about U-Haul and what's being built there. We get emails and we respond. Yes. Yeah, that was a PAD, but I understand your
But-
point.
But public input changed it tremendously from where they started.
Right.
Mhm.
That's a PAD. So unless they were going to build exactly to what its zoning ordinance is, right? So the PAD, you get a lot of latitude on design and rearranging things to fit the site better. With a final plat, you don't have that latitude. If the lots are 35 feet by 100 feet, those are the dimensions, those are the dimensions. You can't go any smaller than that. If the street has to be 48 feet wide to accommodate on-site parking, that's it. That's where it has to be. We can't talk about group parking spot for visitors like we do for some of the other, they can't get that. So that incentive for flexibility is still there when it comes to, to projects. It's whether or not they want to take advantage of that or whether they'll be satisfied with just building exactly what's allowed under the hard zoning.
Mhm. Wow.
Thank you.
What is self-certification
Yes.
program?
Right, so that's just, it's self-certification, we're not doing that, that's just part of this law. Self-certification is when somebody basically assumes responsibility, they're going to certify, yes, I've drawn these plans up, yes, I certify that they're all correct, and yes, I certify if there's anything wrong with them, I am ultimately responsible.
Is there any other question or comment from anyone on the commission?
No.
All right. Then I believe. Do you have anything else you want to say, Ruth?
I'm good.
All right. So the next item here for us, this was to have been a public comment, but we had no one from the public, so we didn't open it, and now it's closed if it had been open.
Hmm.
So we are here to discuss, consider, and act upon ordinance number 445. And ordinance number 445 is amending chapters 11, design review and site plan review, and 12 subdivision regulations of the town zoning code to conform with House Bill 2447. And so what is here now? Discuss, consider, and act upon ordinance number 445, amending, I'm reading the same thing, design review and site plan 12, subdivision regulations of the town zoning code to conform to House Bill 2447, which amends section 9-500.49 of the Arizona Revised Statutes relating to municipal administrative reviews. Does,
Madam Chair, this is Stephen Polk, Town Attorney. And just to make sure we follow our procedures correctly and get them documented, even though we don't have any members of the public, my advice would be still formally open public comment, ask
Okay.
for any, and then formally close it.
oh, I didn't do that, huh? Open? Close public comment. Is that good?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the reminder. You're so good.
Mhm.
All right, so we are at, does the commission wish to discuss this item further?
No.
No. All right, may we have a motion, please? Is there anyone who wishes to make a motion? I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 445, amending chapters 11, design review and site plan review, and 12 subdivision regulations of the town zoning code, and forward the item to town council with a recommendation for the same. So do we have a motion?
I move we approve, I did it though. I move we approve the ordinance 445 and ask the town council to go ahead with approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
As opposed? All right, well, we have agreed to send it forward unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are ready for any future agenda items. Planning Commission may propose items to be placed on a future agenda. And this is for discussion only. Does anyone have anything they would like to place on a future agenda?
I do not.
No.
All right, thank you. And do we have a motion for adjournment? That's where we are now, motioning. We have a motion?
I move that we adjourn.
I
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.